let's take a look at this Plantsy challenge then. Um, what after the advanced? Nice, cool. Um, Sweet. Before we jump into just our run through of this, any overall questions or comments you want to talk about or focus on when we do that?
I guess I just felt good about getting through the core stuff quickly and then added the delete button. I was like, I don't feel like doing the patch right now. But I'm curious to see if how you would do that. Like I was thinking, because usually there's like a button. So I was like, okay, I got to create some sort of button or like another form that makes the change. Just curious, kind of like what route you would do to add that for that advanced deliverable. And then just a smaller question is for like searching. What exactly do we need to add so that it like doesn't care about the case?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, good question. We'll take a look at that. Uh, Anything else? Right. Let me go ahead and put support here. Share screen. Desktop just gets messier and messier. All right. So let's take a look at, well, let's take a look at what we want to do here first. So this is our Plantsy challenge here. It's basically looking at a plant shop, I guess, a plant store, and we are going to be looking at a set of deliverables that should be pretty familiar by now, I think. So when the page loads, we're going to load up all the plants and show them there. Um, we're going to be able to add a page by submitting this form. We're going to be able to mark it as sold out, and we can search there. And I don't think it is required. Yeah, um, doing that patch or delete is advanced deliverable. So I believe that's going to be the same thing on the code challenge. I think the only fetch you're going to need to do is a get there. So I'll double check on that, make sure I'm not lying. Cool. So let's take a look at what we have. We have Plantsy here. We want it to look like this. First up, we're going to do our fetch and get that here. Components on components. So we've got our app here. Let's take a look at our data first, actually. Uh, so all the plants are going to be all the plants is an array. Each plant has an ID, name, image, and price. And we have warning because we haven't done that yet. Great. So I started up the server in one of these here so we can take a look at this URL. And that's what our data looks like. Cool. Sweet. So we know that works. So we can go ahead and get coding. So yeah, so this is our top level component. Uh, again, not an ideal situation in real world, but this is where we're going to be doing our uh, get effect to load up our data. So before I do that, actually, I want to get a state fired up here. So let's get our state for our plants, and it is going to be plants. So let's do a plants and do a use state for that. And since we are looking at an array, we want to start with an empty array. So whatever we do is going to work when we haven't loaded our data yet. But we will load our data with a use effect. And let's see. first so I don't forget. Um, we're gonna do our function here that does a fetch, and we're fetching from our plant API. And we need to set that to our great. Plant API capital P. So we've got our plant API. We're going to do our fetch. Now we need to actually catch that data and do something with it. So we'll do our JSON. And we'll do our, I should do have a snippet for that. I've had it a billion times. And then we're just going to console log it just to make sure that we get everything in. And cool. So let's go back to our fancy here. Oops. Smaller for us. And here is our plants array. Cool. So we know that our server's running, our fetch is working. We're getting our data. Amazing. And now we want to see all the plants. And we can see the challenge looks like that. So I think someone mentioned that they didn't see that there was a plant card there. It would be nice in the deliverables if it said using the plant card, but if it doesn't say it, it doesn't say it. So let's take a look at what we need to do to get this plant card in. So in normal, like in our vanilla is where we'd write our render, whatever, but we don't need to because React does that for us. So our plant page, what does our plant page look like? Plant list. Oh boy, we're gonna be render plant cards in here. So we're gonna be passing stuff down a little bit, but that'll work. That's fine for now. So we're gonna need to pass stuff down from app to plant page to plant list. Whew. So we'll just say plants equals plants. And go down to the plant page. We're going to need to grab that out of here. I'm going to destructure it. And going to do that to plants equals plants. And then one more. Here's our plant list. Now we're going to take plants again. And again, this is an example of just like drilling down in those components with the data. That's just the way we need to do it for now. But we have plants here, so we're going to map those out. And we're going to turn each plant object into, and let's use a plant card. Plant card, look at that. Oh, it had it imported here. I guess that's very, very, it's not a long way of telling you that you need to use that. Cool. Our plants have IDs, so we're going to need a key. So it doesn't holler. Plant ID. And we're going to pass the actual plant in. We're getting that from our map here. Cool. And then in our plant card, we're going to take that plant, destructure it out. And then we're going to, well, let's go ahead and just fill these in now. Plant name, double check our data, make sure I'm doing it right. Name, image, price. Fantastic. Name. Price. And do we have an image in here? Yeah, image right there. Source equals image. And we could destructure out the we could say const name, oops, name, price, image equals plant. I don't know. I just don't feel like doing that here. I think it's fine either way. Awesome. I wonder if that's going to work. Do we do all the things we need to do? I don't think we did. No. What part are we missing here? Let's take double check our components, actually make sure that everything is getting in there.
Your fetch still has the console log instead of the
There we
set.
go. So instead of console logging, we're just going to set plants. So that's going to be the function that the JSON is sent to, and that's going to set our plants. And we can see in our app here, our state looks good. There's our state, and our plants are showing up nice and lush and green. Cool. So that is the first objective, and this is something that we do pretty much every time. So as long as you remember to do the setter instead of the console log, I think you're okay. Did anyone have trouble getting to this point?
I made an infinite loop.
Tell me more about that.
Um, it had something to do with set plants.
Mhm.
I had to shut it down because it was like running like 8,000 times.
Yeah.
So I just like shut it all down.
So what do you think was happening there, or what walk through like what this stuff does, I guess, if that's similar to what you were doing.
It is very similar, except for I didn't put the empty array at the
Yeah.
end.
Do you understand why that would give it a loop there?
I believe it told me like a billion times. It was like, oh God, what did it say? It was like, um, I forget what it said, honestly.
Yeah. So if you don't have that, see you can see my plants going nuts down here. It's getting every time. And so basically the flow is, we set up our state. Great. When the state is set, it's going to render our stuff. We're going to do our use effect to get our fetch. We're going to get our stuff. We're going to set the state here. Great. When the state is changed or updated, it is going to re-render, which is what we want. We want to do that. But if we don't have this dependency right here saying don't do that more than once, every time it renders, it's going to say, oh, I need to do a fetch. Cool. And then it's going to do a fetch and then set the state, which is going to re-render, which is going to set off the effect. So if you don't have that empty array there, you're going to get our infinite loop situation down here that we got. So just always make sure, just kind of by default, put that in there and then change that if you need to change it later.
Will do.
Make sense there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Anyone else get hung up there? Oh, were you able to get other stuff working without that loop?
I feel like the loop kind of threw me off, but I pretty much like I filled out everything that I could,
Mhm.
but with the loop I kind of had to shut down the server and then I was like, oh man. But like plant cards look similar. I destructured it inside like the I know you like doing const, but I don't like doing the const.
Why not?
I don't know. I just like it all in like the one line in there. It looks clean to me. Although I imagine like with more like data in there and having to like destructure like more keys, I'm sure the const would come in handy.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, if it works, that's what works for you. Awesome. Any other questions or comments up to this point? Awesome. It's giving us a problem somewhere. Strict mode. Oh, well, look at that. Yeah, that's cool. That's what we want. Awesome. So our second deliverable here is being able to add new plant. Great. And we're not going to worry about doing a post. Oh no, we are doing the post, right? Are we doing the post? Add a new plant to the page by, yeah. So it's not, this is not being great at being explicit with its deliverables.
I ended up adding a post because it gave us the header stuff down there.
Yeah. It's just being coy is all, I guess. Yeah, so that should read the way we want it. So let's do let's do our post first, and then we'll get our stuff going there. So to add the thing, back in our app, we've got our header, and we've got header and the new platform. Where's the new platform? On the plant page. Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. So on the plant page, we have our new plant form. And so here, this is where we're going to want to do our stuff. So cool. A couple different ways we can do this. I'm going to start off by controlling the form. So let's set up a state for each of these. Plant name. I'm just going to say, yeah, I'll use the full thing. Plant name. Set plant name. And we're going to start those off with empty strings because I think they're all going to be strings. It's going to be plant image. And it's going to be plant price. Cool. And so we're going to need to hook up our controllers here. Yeah, I'll do it longhand first. So what we want to do is make sure that the value of each of these is reflective of the state. So whatever the state is here, we should have our plant image and so whatever that state is going to be, it's going to be, and I think, are these, I wonder, do I want to, well, let's see what it looks like here first. Actually, let me take a look at the data first. So our data, yeah, it has that as decimals. So we'll see what happens here. You can probably get away with just making everything strings, but no, we'll work on it. So here's our value for each of these. We're also going to want to add and we can see like if we put in, the plant name is Gerblberg, that should start off with Gerblberg in there. And if the state changes, oh, and we can change the state. Look at this, new platform has a state. And if we update the states here, we should be able to change the price there. And that's one of the cool things about controlling the form is you can update that with code without having to mess with the HTML. Cool. So now we want to make the other part where we on this, when this is typed into, when this changes, we want that value to be updated in the state. So I'm going to do this. I'll do onChange equals, and I'm just going to do a little inline function here right now. And I'll just say plant name. Yeah, plant name, set plant name. Equals to, and we need the event here. So we can get the event value. Space here so we can read it. Cool. And just to verify that part is good, let's reload. I set that back to nothing. Great. And so now we should see, if we look at our new platform, we should see this update as we type in here. Great. So let's just add that to the other two. Yeah, I'm gonna be bad and copy paste here. So set plant image. Set plant price. Oops. And I'm going to do a parse in here just to make sure that we get our numbers the way we want them. Format. So we should say the same thing over here. We should see our state change when we set our price. Great, cool. Awesome. So that form is controlled. We have our yeah, we have our stuff in state there. Do I go into this now? Maybe. I don't know. So this is one way to control the form. Yeah, let me talk about this here. This is one way to talk about control the form. You can also, so if we imagine that this was not a simple plant shop, but this was a more full featured plant shop. So maybe it has amount of inventory, or if it's on sale or not, or more information about the species, or whether it needs shade or partial shade or full sun, seasoning, what seasoning to provide it, and so on. If we had more data in our plant objects, this would get a little bit unwieldy. So another option here would be to, and let me know if anyone did it this way. Const plant, set plant. And I'm just going to do an object here. And so these objects should reflect the data with name, image, and price. And so that means we need to change up the way we do this here. But since we have name, image, and price, and that actually maps onto the names here, I'm going to write one function that updates this object for all of them. And that looks like this. Let's do handle change. And I'll take the event. So, and I'm just going to do, and that's going to mess our price, but that's fine. Handle change. Here. And this is advanced goofery. This is not required for the challenge, but it's as you go forward, something like this might be useful for you. So what do we want handle change to do? We want the plants are going to look like this, right? And we don't need to worry about the ID here. So let's look at this. So we have our name, image, and price as the names here. So what we want to do is when someone types into one of these fields, it's going to kick off handle change. We're going to know what the target is that you target. So we want to set the appropriate field to the value of that target. So value. And we need to set the state of that plant. And we can't just set it directly. We need to replace it with a new one. So I'm going to set plant. And so what do I want to set this to? I want to set it to a new object for starters, because we need to replace the state. That object should contain everything, or actually no, because we don't have the yeah, we want to update it, sorry. Should contain everything that's already in that object. So this will make a shallow copy of this, which is fine because we're just doing name, image, price as strings there. Yeah, and so we want to set that to that, but we also want to update the value, and we need to know which thing we're going to be setting to our value. And the way we can find that is by looking at our form. We can actually grab the name of the form element off of our target. So we can say but this is not going to work because this is not a valid that's not a valid key, because it's got dots in it basically. But we can wrap it in square brackets like that to turn it into a key properly. And this is I don't know if we ever talked about this. This is a part of the Is it part of the spreads? It's not part of the spread syntax. It's a new meaning in the last 8 years, I guess, of turning a variable into a key like that. And so in one shot, if we have 20 fields, we can use that same handle change for that. But let's see if I am telling you the truth. Nope, I'm not, because we need to do that. This is an easy change. Plant.name, plant.image, and plant.price. Great. Now let's reload those values out. And let's take a look at our state. Oh, buddy, are you not gonna let me do that? Come on, man, give me a break. Reload. I don't know why this is behaving lately. There we go. So here's our new plant form. Plant form with our state. And if we change this, we should it's a and our price is 20 for each potato. So cool. So now we see that that's updated our plant object there, and this reflects that value. So now that we have that single object, that's going to make it super easy to make a new plant out of it. So that's two different ways to do that. I'm sure there are more because JavaScript. So now we need to do we need to do two things. We need to do our post, and we need to get it on the screen, which means getting it in our state. And again, there's a couple ways we could do this too, right? We can do our post right here, which seems reasonable. But my preference would be to do it as close to where the state is as possible. If we're using this setup, just because, again, kind of for encapsulation. Well, I guess you could argue it either way. I would like the form not to know about posting or anything. I would just like to say, okay, form, you are taking care of yourself, and you're going to take, handle submit. And hand, oh, man. And so actually, let me think for a second. Yeah. So I would like this not to know about the outside as much. So I just want to know that I'm going to get a function, and I'm going to do something when I get that function, whether it's creating a new form with a post or just adding on the page or whatever. So I'm going to put a new handler here on the form, not on the button. Do it on submit. And I'm actually going to do, since I need to prevent the default here, I'll write the function out here. Why not? I spell it right. Handle submit. And I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call it on submit. And here's where I'm going to do my print. Default. And then call handle submit. And I'm going to call handle submit with our plant. I don't know if I like the name of that. I'm going to say, I'm going to call it add new plant. Because this is the new plant form. And I'm assuming that whoever is using this is going to be using it to create a new plant one way or the other. How that does it, not my concern here in the form. Cool. So let's put that there as well. And those are both called the same. I do call that we're gonna call it on submit, or let's call it handle submit. Great. Is there anything wrong here? That's just deleted line. Cool. So let's walk through this again. We just did a lot of stuff. So we're going to set up a state for the plant that starts off with an empty object because it's going to be an object. We have our form here. Each form has the value set to the appropriate key of that plant object here. And when someone types into it, when the field changes, we're going to call this we're going to set the plant object to a new object with the current values of the plant there. And we're going to set the appropriate name to the appropriate value there. So we know our plant is always going to be coherent. It's always going to have the value that we're expecting in it. And so now when we submit, we're going to call it handle submit. Handle submit is going to prevent our default for us, and it's going to take the add new plant function that's passed in and call that with that new plant object. And that's all this form needs to know about. We're not going to worry about having it do posts or anything here. We are going to handle that, or actually before we move on, what questions do you have about this?
I'm still a little fuzzy on the on change. So I kind of got almost everything here, but I didn't do the on change. And I'm still kind of like, why do we need that there?
It's just the idiom that we use in React. Basically, we are kind of making sure that our data is stored in the component, not in the form itself, even though we're pulling it from the form. And so, this is kind of programming ahead of what we actually need, but this is the pattern you're going to see in a lot of places. So where if we want to change our state with code, or if we want to use it for something, we don't have to do any messing around with it. We've kind of already pre-messed around with it. But if you do it just with a handle submit and pulling the values off here, there's nothing wrong with that. It'll work. It's just not as reacty. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. So I just want to make sure. So basically the on change is on the input field, right? So if the user starts typing into the field, automatically we're going to know target name and target name is going to become the key, and then whatever the value is, it's going to be what the data is going to add onto the state for us to submit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is not universal by a stretch. This is the way we do it here. I think there are many ways to do it. So you will probably see this a lot out in the wild. You'll probably see it other ways. So in fact, you'll probably see this kind of abstracted away in a lot of places, depending on what libraries people use. But yeah, this is just a way to do it. But the constant's going to be the adding the new plant thing. So let's write that function up here. We want to keep it close to our state. And I'll write it down here. So I'll call it add new plant. I'm not using the nails here. So I'm going to take a plant object here, and right now I'm just going to console log. So now I need to pass that function through all of our little components here. So now we're passing it on a plant page, which means we need to grab it here. And we need to pass it to our search form. So this plant page is not using it at all, which is a drag, but that's the way it hooks up right now. Cool. So I think if we add our potato here, we should get a console log that says Change it uncontrolled input to be controlled. Let's try that. Oh, because I changed the data manually. That's right. Potato. No, it's not. Oh, what is it doing? Finally. Oh, I get. It's worried that we are changing this from a bunch of things without keys to a bunch of things with keys. So I'm just going to add the keys with empty things in there. So name is going to be do, image is going to be do, and price is going to be 0. And price being 0 actually works out because we want that to display on our page instead of nothing. Let's see if that gives us the same error. I don't think it will. Cool. Oh, it's going to be good potato there. And it's a $20 potato. If we hit add plant, we should, yeah, get our object. So now we know this is what we're adding to our plant list. And now that we have all that hooked up, all we need to do is actually do that. So there's our plant. We are going to do 2 steps. So we could just add it to the state here. If we just say, set plants, we could spread that out. Plant, plant, P-L-A-N-T. Great. And then we'll add it to the list just visually. Oh, I should have a key, but there's our plant. There's our potato. But that's not reflected in the database. So we want to do our post first. So let's do that. So we're going to, again, do our fetch here. And we're going to just do it to our plant API. But we are going to need our options. So here is let's do our method. Post. We do our headers. JSON and great. And we will send our body along, which is just going to be our stringified plant. Cool. So in theory, that's going to add it to our database. Let's see what comes back. And if we're doing this right, you know what? I'm just going to do this here. Since we know this works, we're going to get our JSON back, and we're going to set plants with that JSON. I'm pretty convinced that'll work. So we're doing our post. What could go wrong? Could have a typo, could have the headers wrong, could have the plant formatted wrong. We could be doing our spread incorrectly. All sorts of things could go wrong. But I have a good feeling, I'm 90% confident here. So let's see if that actually does it. Potato. And 30. So let's add the plant. No glaring errors. Okay, there's our potato. What happens when we reload? Oh, and let's double check our data. Make sure it showed up in there. Hey, there it is. So if we reload, it should still show up. And there is our potato. Cool. And that is our circle of life right there. I think that will do it. So that's a lot of steps and a lot of places things could go wrong, a lot of surface area for bugs to live on. What questions do we have about this? done so far. Only difference variable names. Cool. Awesome. If there are no questions on the post, let's move to our next part, which is, and these two parts should go relatively quickly, I think. And we've got all our gets are I think the post is the heaviest thing. I can mark a plant as sold out. It doesn't give us a patch endpoint, so I'm not going to worry about that. In fact, yeah, all the patch stuff is going to be in the advanced deliverable. So we are just going to be updating it here. So right now, that button doesn't do anything. So let's take a look at hooking that button up. That's going to be on a plant card. And our plant card has our button there. So we want to do something with that button. I'm going to call it, I don't know, sell plant, I guess. And we'll just hook that up straight there. And we're going to need to know which plant it is. So I'm going to say unclick. I'm just going to have a little arrow function there that says sell plant. So this function that we're passing into onClick is a arrow function, and that arrow function calls sell plant with the plant that's passed in. And again, remember these are always treat props as if they're read only, even if they're objects or whatever you can change, because we don't want to pollute our thing there. So here's another thing where we're going to be passing it down. So in our doing it more. I'm going to break this down here so we can read that a little better. So I'm going to call sell plant. And then we're going to need to go to plant page and pass that down to our plant list, I guess. And then our plant list is going to need to pass that down to each plant. Let's see how this gets tedious. The cell plant in those last two literally do nothing except pass them down. We'll talk about recoil next week. It'll make everything way easier. And now we just need to write that there. I'll put it here. And I'm just going to console log our plant. And we're not going to worry about the patch here again. So, cell plant is not defined in plant list. Oh, we probably need to see. This is the danger. And in plant page. All this wiring is so prone to error. Cool. So I should be able to click this and get an object over here. Great. So, and now we just need to do this part. And this is where we're going to, well, we're going to need to do two things, right? We need to set a flag on the plant, whether it's sold or not. So we're going to do that, that updating in here. So we're going to update our plant list. So we're going to set plants. What do we need to do? So we need to, first of all, we're going to set it to, if we set it to a spread of plants, that would work. Instead of that, we're going to map over it because we want to set the plants to the same list with one of them changed only, and that's the one that's going to match the ID. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to use P here. So if the plant that we're looking at, if the ID doesn't match the plant ID that we've asked to sell, question mark. Hello. If it doesn't match that, then if it doesn't match that, then we are just going to return that thing. Otherwise, we're going to return a copy of it. We're going to spread it out. and we're going to set sold to true. This is almost identical to what we were doing with the sushi beaten here. So let's see. So we don't need to worry about price. And so when that set plants gets changed, it's going to re-render. Right now, that's not going to do anything, of course, but we can, if it is cooperating, yeah, we can look at our plants in here. Loading, loading, loading. So slow. What? Why gotta be like that? Components. Man. Let's do a reload. Cool. Give me, there we are. So if we look at our state for our first plant here, let's hit that. Ooh, we broke everything. What did we do? Each child needs a key. Each child does need a key, doesn't it? Interesting. We should have that key in there though, right? I wonder why that would break. Take a look over here. That's good. What did we do wrong? What did we do? Oh, yeah. We don't want to put that map inside of a parentheses, do we? Cool. We're gonna bomb out again here. No, cool. So here is our plant. Let's see what happens when we click the button. Hey, there we go. Sold is now true. And so now all we need to do is filter on that. So we're just not going to show any plants that have sold. And we're going to need to do that where? We're going to do that down in our plant list here. And I think we just want to filter here. And we only want to show things that the plant is not sold. So plant, not plant sold. Yeah. So this is going to, the filter is going to return a subset of the list using this function. Anything that this returns true for, it's going to show, and not plant sold. So if plant sold is false, not false is true, that's going to show us that. I wonder if that's going to work. Let's find out. Hey, look at that. No plants but Jesse. Awesome. Only plant. But we can reload and they're all there because we didn't do any patches. Great. I feel good about that. And again, this is almost identical to the sushi one that we saw yesterday. Questions?
I thought it was supposed to just mark it as sold out under the
news too.
Totally right. Well, let's fix that up. I had sushi on the brain. Look at that. Cool. So this one needs to be plant sold. We'll make it the other way around. So we want to do not plant sold. Y'all are so observant. There we go. Out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. Cool. Okay, patches over there. Yep, that is the way. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for pointing that out. I would have failed. Cool. Other questions or errors you want to point out?
I ended up making a state for the plant card. Is that even necessary?
Not really, because we're getting these as read only, right? And so if we had a state, that kind of implies we're going to be changing the state. So if we're getting a prop and we're not doing anything to that data except display it, you don't need to make a state for it. It's not going to break anything, but it just gives it an extra bit of stuff that we don't need.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
The way that I interpreted that deliverable was basically just you can click on in stock and change it to sold out or not in stock. which was much simpler than like adding a property. Like,
Yeah,
would that, if this were the real thing, like, would that have not counted? You know, because all it says is I can mark a plant as sold out. Like,
yeah, that's a really good question.
Click it and then is the designation.
You know, according to the spec, I think that would work. So if we just had a state in here that was just like
Is in stock.
just
and
yeah, sold or not, or in stock or not,
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing.
that would technically fulfill that. Yeah, you're right. Um, yeah, that would make it harder if we wanted to persist it, but to get it to that point, that would totally work. So, yeah, I would have to get that to you for sure.
Yeah, first we pass, then we.
Yeah, yeah, and that's again like the beauty of what we're doing here. We can get it working and set our state here, and then when we, you know, next week at the Scrum meeting, they're like, okay, we need that to persist. Then that's when you look at like, oh, I can pull that out and put that somewhere else. But in the meantime, it looks like it works. So, yeah, for sure. Other questions before we hit our last deliverable? Cool. And this one again should be pretty straightforward. We have our search bar here, and we want to, when we type something in the search bar, it's going to give us a thing. So that means I think the search bar is going to need a state. So is it in the header? Nope. Is the header just that? Useless. A plant page. I would put the search in the header, but so our search form, we are, let's see, do we want to, I think we're going to need to keep a state where we're displaying. So here, because that's where it's going to need to know. That's kind of gross, but yeah, that's fine. So we'll do our search term, I guess. And state with an empty string. And then, so we're going to need to do two things. First off, we're going to need a way to set that with a search. So I think I'm just going to pass down the setter here. I don't think we need to write a separate function for it. And then here we can grab that. And we can just say on change, we're going to set search term with the target value, the value. And I think that's just going to call our setter and pass the stuff in the field to that setter. So let's see if that one works. Cool, here's our search. Great, it's a search term, plant form, plant page, there we go. So here is our search term in our search. Where's our, we did set a state, right? We didn't set a state. No, we set a state in plant page, right? We don't have where, is that where we set it? Search term, search term. That should be in plant page. Why is that not showing up here? Nothing. Oh, that's just the state, right? It's not named. Cool. So we are updating that search term here. So now all we need to do is use that to change our plant list. And I'm just going to do a filter. And I want the name to match the search term. Yeah, I think. So does the plant name start with search term? Let's put that there. Is that going to work? Search term was assigned a value but never used. It is now. Cool. Let's see. I'm just gonna search for Cap ZZ. There, great. Let's search for potato or pothos. Great. Both our potato and our pothos are there. Cool. So that's the simple way to do that. Questions about that before I do the case insensitive thing? Because if I'm correct, this will not match that. Yeah. Any questions about this? This part should be pretty familiar to you by now. Awesome. So there's again a couple ways to do. We want to talk about making that case insensitive. So I'm using starts with. And if we look at the MDN page for starts with, this is going to all it can do is match that string straight up. So there are a few ways to do this. I would probably say so we could use a regular expression. And regular expression, you could put a /I option on it to make it case insensitive. I don't think we need to pull out that gun right now. I think what I would like to do is I'm just going to convert them both to uppercase or lowercase, I guess, to lowercase. Oh, let's do locale. Yeah. Just in case we get some plants with accents in them. Cool. So is no good. What do we get? What did I type wrong? Yeah, starts with is it's not. That's strange. Oh, because that's a function. There we go. How you like that? All right. So now make sure our old one works. Great. Does it work lowercase? It sure does. Awesome. And so it is, basically just removing the case from all of those and doing it that way. The reason use locale lowercase instead of just lowercase, if I want to do, I don't know, what's a plant? Tomato. I want to do a black metal tomato. Tomato. Hope that's something okay. Oh no. Let's do Jesse. Gardening know-how. let's hope gardening know-how is okay. So what do we get for our tomato down here? Oh, look at that. It's vanilla beans. Great. Oh no, those are castor beans. But there's our black metal tomato. And if we search for T-O doesn't match. T metal O does match. And I'm not sure if we do two lowercase, I'm not 100% if that's going to match. But it probably will. It's probably just the first one. T-O-T. Yeah, that works. I think that's more for non-Latin languages. That's just good practice to do. Lowercase works just as fine though. Cool. So that's how I do lowercase. I, being me, would probably do a regular expression actually, but that's just me. But yeah, that is how I would do that. And that is all our objectives in just about an hour. There's a lot of talking. So, what questions do we have? What parts of the challenge did you get hung up on that we can talk about here, or anything else? Yeah. we've done a lot of stuff, like just looking at this, like so many things, but just taking it one step at a time. It's really easy to get overwhelmed with all the things. But yeah, like breaking up into tasks and just like doing one little bit at a time. That is the only, like literally the only way we can do this, right? Um, yeah, and again, these are a way to do it. If you do them differently, in a way that satisfies the requirements, that's all good. Yeah. Questions, comments, thoughts? Feeling pretty good. All right. Well, stop a share. Great. Yeah. So tomorrow's challenge is going to be very similar, I think. Not identical, of course, but it'll exercise a lot of the same things. So again, build and burn. Let's get practice in here, and yeah, I think that'll do it. Last call before we close it down. All good. All right. I'll post this video in the usual places, on the playlist and in the channel. Give a holler if you need anything. We're doing stand down half an hour early because I got an appointment. So yeah, I will catch you all at well in a little bit, a few hours. Thanks for hanging out.